So tell us about your story, Evan. I mean, tell us about, where'd you grow up and what did your parents do for a living?
So I grew up in Toronto, Canada. I've traveled the world, but Toronto is still my home. I'm filming this from my studio in Toronto. My parents, for the people watching the video, are actually on my wall behind me. I know it's a podcast, but for the people listening, I've got a picture on my wall where I'm about 9 years old. My parents are kind of standing next to me, and that's our daily reminder. My one word is believe, and that comes from them. They always taught me I was Evan Castrilli Carmichael. I could do anything that I believe in, and that was always a daily reminder. And anytime I didn't do well, anytime I didn't do well at school, anytime some failure happened, they'd always remind me that I was Evan Castrilli Carmichael. I could do anything that I believe in. And that message still kind of carries through. And they didn't teach me a lot about business. They weren't really entrepreneurs. My father worked for the government and management consulting afterwards. And my mother was a lawyer and politician and did a lot of work to try to make the community better, which is where I pull that side from. She'd always tell me, if you have the ability, then you have the responsibility. If you can, then you must. And you should be doing something that serves others. And so I've taken kind of different pieces from both my parents and put that into the work that I do on a daily.
Yeah, I had both dad. I had two dads. So I had my real dad and my stepdad, and I pulled every good out of each one of them. We all got good and we all got bad, and I took the best of everything and I made it my own. So I think that's incredible that you pulled from your parents and you took the best. And so when did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? I mean, that you wanted to be in business?
I had a bunch of tendencies growing up. I think I did lemonade stands and baseball card trade shows, and every weekend I'd have to take my parents and they'd drive me out to this giant baseball card show that was about 2.5 hours out of town. And I'd be negotiating as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old with people who were 40, 50 years old over 5 cents, 10 cents, over like, hey, okay, I'll give you this, quarter, but it's got gum on the back. Great. I'll take that quarter, I'll scrape out the gum. So I had a lot of those tendencies growing up, but I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think one, because nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. So there was nobody to look up to and say, hey, I'm going to do it like Uncle Joe did it. And also at the time, entrepreneurship wasn't as hot as it is now. It wasn't an option. It wasn't discussed. So I'm what year is it? I'm 38 right now. So growing up, it wasn't part of the lexicon. It wasn't a career option. And so I thought I wanted to be a banker. In my high school yearbook, where it asked you, like, where are you going to be in 10 years? I said VP at a bank. And then I went to university and connected with two people who had started a business, and they asked me to join as an owner. And I had to face the toughest decision of my life, whether I'd go take this banking job, we're going to make 6 figures and travel around the world and like my dream job, or go to this startup company, make $300 a month and have equity. And hopefully that turns into something. And I just didn't want to live with regret. And so I said, you know what, I can always go get another job. Maybe not the same job, maybe not that awesome company, but another banking-ish job. I didn't know if I'd ever get this startup opportunity again. And so I went a super hard road, but I went down that path and haven't looked back since.
So did you have an original mentor? Like, who was your first business mentor?
As life mentors, my parents influenced me all the way through. Business mentor, I've learned mostly, to be honest, from others from afar. I call them aspirational mentors. So when I started my business, the first one was a software company, biotech software. I didn't know anything about biotech software. Science was my worst subject. I didn't know how to code for anything. And I sucked. We struggled. We're making nothing. I felt defeated and embarrassed as a human being. I felt like a loser. And I told my business partner that I quit. It was the worst day of my life. I told him that I quit just because I had zero self-worth, and this business was sucking everything out of me. And then later that night, I just realized, you know what? I can't quit on this yet. I haven't given everything I've got, but hitting that rock bottom, I realized I'm not the first guy to try to sell software before. Like, somebody's figured this out. Instead of trying to figure it all out myself, somebody has figured this out. So how about I go learn from them. And I looked at Bill Gates, and Bill Gates saved my company.
Wow.
I've never met Bill Gates, but I looked at, how did Microsoft start? Like, not how he makes an extra $1 million now, right? 0 to 1. Like, how did that happen? And then how can I apply that to my business? And through him, it was partnerships. Microsoft grew through partnerships. Their big deal came with IBM, when every IBM computer had Microsoft software on it. That's what broke the company open. But Microsoft was already a $7 million company when that deal happened. So I had to get the first 7. Same thing, partnerships. So I tried partnering. I got nothing else to lose. I hate everything. So let's just try it. And within a couple of weeks, I had my first deal for $13,500. And, that doesn't seem like a ton of money, I guess, now. But to me, that was it, man. That was bank. Like, I'm making $300 a month. $13,500, it was money.
That was life changing. That was a life changing moment for you.
And not just like money, like I actually could afford a meal instead of just French fries at McDonald's. I could eat a full meal. But just confidence, like, holy cow, like something that I tried actually worked,
That's it.
Ever. And so that got me on the path of, okay, I don't need to have it all figured out. I could just go learn from somebody who's done it. Right. So like, for your listeners, like, they're learning from you, like all of Daniel's experiences, you can now learn from his mistakes and his successes and shortcut your path. And so that's now become my default, and why I do so much on my YouTube channel, profiling different successful entrepreneurs. It's, I selfishly use it for myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm learning from people. It's for me. And then I share it. And I'm grateful that Daniel and everybody else, enjoys watching the content, because I can build a business around it. But even if nobody liked it, I'd still be making the videos for myself.
Right.
They may not be as polished and edited and all that fancy, but I'd still use it because I need it for myself. And so I don't know that I've had like a really strong personal business mentor one-on-one, but I've leveraged the aspirational side, finding aspirational mentors to teach me, even though I've never met these people in real life.
I know that you have followed Anthony Robbins for a long time, and you, I think, have a relationship with him, or you've met him a few times. And I know that, that was for me. He was from afar for me. So when I first got into business, I probably the best thing that I've ever learned from Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins or whatever, is that you got to model after people that have already done it.
Yeah.
And so I came into business at 21, Evan, and I knew nothing about nothing. And I hooked my little red wagon up to some really successful people. And those people taught me exactly word for word what I needed to do. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. I think people make such a mistake where they're trying to reinvent. Now, again, I'm not saying not to be creative and try new things and all that, but I'm saying that there are certain components to different types of businesses that you could learn from, that you can get to that 0 to 7 million, or that 0 to 1, whatever it is. And so I just think what you're saying makes such a lot of sense. When you first started out, well, I'll tell you my story. I mean, when I first started out, I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I was scared. I never sold anything in my life. I mean, of course, I went into sales and communication and leadership and all. I never did any of that stuff.
Right.
I had a lot of limiting beliefs, and they were that I was young, that I had no experience, that I was short, a short Mexican kid from a not so good neighborhood. So I had a lot of things. So from your end of that, what limiting beliefs did you have to conquer growing up or starting out in business?
So I think the limiting beliefs that you start with don't actually go away ever. They just allow you to tackle bigger problems. And so, my one word is believe. People say, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? It'd be, I need to believe more in myself. I need to believe more in my projects. I need to believe that it'll work out. But the real brain twist is, what would 85-year-old Evan come and tell 38-year-old Evan? The same thing. I got to believe more. Like, it doesn't go away. Your limiting beliefs are still the same limiting beliefs. The thing that you fear most is still the thing that you fear most. You just are able to handle bigger and bigger and bigger projects. You can tackle bigger demons and bigger monsters, but it's still the same thing forever. So
what were some of the things that you feel were limiting you in the beginning for you?
It's just self-belief. So in my first company, I'm 19 years old. I'm trying to sell to people who are 3 times my age, who had multiple PhDs, and I sucked at science, and I'm selling scientific software. You know, I thought these guys are never going to want to talk to me. They're not going to talk to some kid who doesn't even understand, you know, what this stuff does. And that prevented me from getting on phone calls. I thought people would think my voice was too young and they wouldn't talk to me. I was afraid to go and do speeches. I was afraid to go meet clients. And then I realized by just doing it that, all they actually care about is, does my product help them in their research? Does it help them in their research? And a lot of the people that I was talking to were still just the business people. And then we still had our tech guys talk to each other. I didn't need to understand all the tech, just the story that I threw up in front of myself, right? I'm too young. I don't have PhDs. I'm talking to these people who are old and they know what they're doing. They're not going to take me seriously.
And so when you started getting on camera, I know you obviously you got onto YouTube, and now you speak a lot on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Was that hard for you in the beginning? I mean, was that difficult?
Yeah. And it's why I still show my videos. Like, the content was good. The points were good, but I was super nervous. I was wearing a suit. I was so worried about getting the exact words down that I tried to memorize the script, and it came off as super fake. I would do a lot of videos where I would narrate. So I'd only be on camera for a little bit, and then I would narrate because I want the perfect script, and I'd show like B-roll on top of it. And I love keeping those videos up because it shows the journey. I think I'm actually a really slow learner and not very good at what I do. And I just grinded my way through it. I've done 6,000 videos on my channel.
Right.
1,000 of them aren't even public. Like, you get good through repetition, and you better get good at it if you've done something 6,000 times. And I think we talked about the agency that I'm with, or we're both with. And at the beginning, I was working with Steve, who's one of the principals, and he wanted me to do a foundation story. He's like, Evan, we need your foundation story. And it's like a 20-minute video. Okay, great. And at the beginning, he didn't want to let me into the agency because I was such a bad communicator. He's like, I love your message. Most of the people who come to us don't have a great message. I love your message, but you suck in front of the camera. Like, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that, man. I've already done like 500 videos or something at this point. Like, okay, thanks. I feel the love. But I want to work. I'm going to take a flyer on you. Okay, great. So I did. He said, first video, you got to make your foundation story. So I recorded it in the morning, 20-minute video. Great. Sent it to him. He gave me feedback. I did it again at lunch. He gave me feedback. I did it again in the evening. And I would do that. And I recorded that one video like 40 times, 3 times a day. And I quickly became the best practice at the agency, where then they were saying, look at what Evan's doing, from being the worst, not because I was great, just because I was putting in the work. Where most people who are at the agency who were being told what to do had a hard time finding time to make one video a week. I took it seriously and was doing the same video 3 times a day until I got it. And so where I sucked in original talent and being born with a gift, and while still being a really slow learner, I pushed my way through and I got better. 4.5 years ago, I had 7,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. 7,000. And now we're at 1.6 million because I did 3 videos every day for 4.5 years.
It's awesome, man.
Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.